Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys, Tuesday morning. We're still at the Love's truck stop. Still broke down with a broken turbo. However, this morning I was able to call some of the places that I found last night, and they were actually open. And luckily, the very first place I called is called Turbo Diesel Electric. They're about 8 miles away. They have the exact turbo that Tim Gentry suggested, and it's brand new, in stock. They're trying to see if they can get somebody to deliver it to me. If they cannot deliver it to me, no big deal. I'll pull the bike out and I'll go get it. Turbo might be a little awkward to carry on the Harley, but I'll do it. But I've also got another resource here. My friend Ron showed up. He was a couple hours behind us last night when it all happened. If you guys remember, on our way to Daytona, we were a couple hours behind him when his truck broke down, but there was nothing we could do to help him, so he told me not to come. And there's really nothing he can do to help me here either, but he was passing through anyways, so we stopped to say hi. He just got here about half an hour ago. So now I'm gonna give it a second dose of that MP, just like I did last night, try to get these bolts freed up. The turbo company is also trying to find replacement bolts, gaskets, all that stuff, because there is a good chance I'm gonna break a bolt taking this apart. This thing is old, it's rusty. I'd rather have all new hardware on hand so that if I hit that roadblock and I've got to jump that hurdle, I've got the stuff to fix it. Now, I guess Katie was just reading a comment that somebody told me I really need to pull the intercooler out and have it cleaned out as well. And I don't know that we can do that here. And if the turbo hasn't come apart yet, I don't think that's as necessary. There might be some oil residue in there, but the truck was running, so there's not going to be like enough pooled in there to cause like a hydrolock situation or anything. But I'll make that decision once I get this turbo off and really inspect it. If it looks like I've lost any parts, then obviously we will take measures to do so, because I'm not going to destroy this engine. But if I feel pretty confident that we're okay, then we're not going to bother with that. Eventually that oil will kind of get misted through and burnt during the normal operation, and it should be okay. But for now, we'll start taking this stuff apart, and hopefully we'll get our parts soon. All right, guys, so Ron and I have been working on it for about an hour now, and we've got everything broke loose. We got the drain line off, we got the oil feed off, intakes off, the exhaust is loose, but I couldn't get enough slop to get my little pipe out, but it's all loose. The challenging part was the 4 studs coming out of the flange. Obviously, a 30-something-year-old truck, lots of rust on it. We had to go really, really slow. Like back them off and then back them in, spray more lube, back them off, back them in, spray more lube. And then we had to use a torch on one of them because it was really tight and I was afraid of breaking that stud off. I did get new nuts, but they could not get me new studs. So salvaging these was really important, and I think we did it. So we've only got 2 more nuts holding on. The whole thing should come off. And the new boost machine is here. These are the next 2 bolts out of here. We can fit up the new one and make sure everything works right. Guys, moment of truth. Come on. All the bolts are loose. Trying not to cut my hand on the impeller. Still don't want to come. It's coming, just slowly. There it goes. All right, now get that out of the way. The oil drain line is just caught between the housings. There we go. Boost! All right, so now with the old turbo out of the way, used a wire wheel, cleaned off all of our studs coming out of the manifold, and the one, we had 3 of the nuts came off, and one of them came off where it's pulled the stud, but we cleaned the threads on that as well. We're going to apply anti-seize before we reassemble it, and we've also cleaned the surface for the oil drain back pipe so that everything seals there good. While I was doing that, Ron installed the fitting from the old turbo into the new turbo for the oil feed line. So now I think we're ready to hang it on. You ready to hang it? Hang it. I think we're ready to hang it. All right, guys, there she sets in place. Now I'm still gonna tighten the bolts up. It's loose on there still. We've got to do some clocking, but it's in place. The pipe is on. Took all 4 hands to do it though. All right, guys, it's pretty much all bolted in. We've got the center housing clocked properly. The drain line is attached. The exhaust is attached, tightened. The flange is attached and tightened. We still have the compressor side loose enough to where we can adjust it. But before we go any further, I need to fill the turbo with oil so that we don't start it dry. And of course, you know, nothing but the best, using some Amsoil in there. And in a funnel, we're gonna fill it till it overflows, and then we can put that feed line back on and then clock our intake side, and we'll almost be done. All right, guys, the turbo is pretty much installed. Everything's done, everything's hooked up. We filled it with oil, and then we ran into our first obstacle. If you look at the outlet of that turbo, it needs like a V-band clamp. My original housing just had the flange for the rubber coupler to fit over it. So I need to get some kind of an adapter to make this work. Well, guys, other than this obstacle, feeling pretty good. I called them, and they're trying to see if they can find an adapter that can V-band clamp on there, and then I can get my boot on. We can physically shove the boot over it, as you see here, but there's no way to properly clamp that and seal it. It's just not gonna be right. But you know, it's only noon, so we're still early in the day. Hopefully we can get some resolution here. Well, guys, 2:30 in the afternoon now, and I've had zero luck finding that adapter that I need locally. I found it on Amazon. There's a store on there called Fab Pros or ProFab or something like that. I'll put a little picture here. They've got it, but they can't get it to me until like the 18th. Well, today's the 12th. I'm not gonna sit here for 6 days waiting on a part. I'm not liking it, but I can make this work. It's just not the right way to do it. So I can put it together like this. Top's not a problem, but down here, this little bulge right here, that's actually where that flange is sticking out. I just don't know how well and for how long that will hold. It might hold just fine. Well, the light bulb just went off. I completely forgot that right up the road is SummitRacing. I say right up the road, they're about an hour away. I checked their website, and they have what I need in stock. Question is, can we make it there with what we got? I mean, we don't have much of a choice but to try, right? So if we can get there and get the part, I can put it on in their park lot. It shouldn't take but a few minutes to install it. So I think we're gonna try that. We're gonna eat some lunch and think about it. We're gonna ponder a moment, and then we just might hit the road. I hope this works. Now, I know somebody had mentioned in the comments last night or this morning about being concerned about cleaning out the intercooler. And guys, that is a real concern if this turbo had come apart. It didn't come apart. It did throw some oil in there, but the truck was running. We didn't lose enough oil for it to be detrimental to where we could like hydrolock the engine. It was running driving in here. It'll run just fine leaving. The turbo never came apart. We caught it before it disintegrated. There wasn't even any wear on the housing. There wasn't hardly any shaft play. It was just an oil seal problem, not an actual turbo failure. We could have just replaced the seal, but that would have been even harder to find rather than a whole new turbo. And I wanted a new turbo anyways. So I'm pretty confident that we don't need to take off the intercooler and clean it out. Like I said, had we thrown bearings, had we shredded parts of the impeller or the compressor wheel, then yeah, there was a real possibility of something there, but that never happened. Got a little bit of oil in there, but remember, it's a diesel engine. Diesel engines run on oil, so it's not gonna hurt it for a little bit of that to atomize and go through the system. It may not be optimal, but it's not gonna hurt it. All right, so I started the engine up and I let it run for a little bit. Just let it idle for probably 3 or 4 minutes without doing anything other than let it idle. The instructions say let it idle for 1 minute, but I gave it a little bit more. Then I revved the engine a few times, even held it at a higher RPM, and I let it run for a total of probably 12 or 15 minutes. I didn't actually count, but I'm just ballparking. Everything seems to be good except for one thing. The drain line from the turbo back down to the oil pan, where that gasket goes in, I've got a tiny little drip, just like one drip every 10 seconds. It's minor. Now, we did put a brand new gasket in there. A new gasket came with the turbo kit, but we didn't put any sealant on there because in theory we shouldn't have needed to. But I think now I'm going to let this cool down for a minute. I'm going to take it apart. I'll put some right stuff on that gasket, both sides, and then I will put it back up in there and tighten it down. While it was running, I did try to snug the bolts in a little more, and I got like, I don't know, a 1/16 of a turn, but it didn't stop the leak, so I'm just gonna take it apart, reseal it. All right, so I resealed it, and it looks like it took pretty good. I'm gonna let it sit in idle for about another 10 minutes or so while we go to the bathroom and clean up, and if there's no drips there, we're gonna hit the road to do a road test. And I don't remember if I said this already, but my biggest concern here is that this turbo may put out more boost. I'm worried about my old boots. The turbo shop didn't have any. I did call Fleet Pride. They had the 2 straight boots, but they didn't have the 90-degree boot. I'm gonna try at Summit and see what they've got. If not, I'll order some online. If I can't replace them all right now, it doesn't make any sense to replace just the 2, because I guarantee it'll be the one that I don't replace that blows if we have an issue. We may not have an issue. I don't know what to expect here. This is uncharted territory for me. All right, so I've got to get on my soapbox here for a moment. You know, I try to be a good person. I really do. I was in there washing up because my hands are greasy. So I cleaned up after myself because I had made a little bit of a mess while I was cleaning myself up. So I wiped down the counter and threw the things away. And then on the way out, I see that somebody threw toilet paper and paper towels in the urinal. And it just annoys me that there's people out there that would do stuff like that. I mean, there's nobody in the world right now that doesn't know that that does not belong in the urinal. With exception, maybe some small toddlers. Well, if you're letting your toddler go into a public bathroom like that without supervision, you're probably a bad parent. So any reasonable adult knows not to do that. So to do it is to intentionally be disrespectful, which is just sad that people are out there. Somehow that person felt better because they were doing something they knew was wrong and somebody else would have to go clean up after them. Just saying, if some of these people get that mentality out of their head, the world would be a better place. There are probably those people that's just miserable in their life. They probably complain that they never get ahead in life. It's probably why they do stuff like that, because they feel like they're getting back at someone. But I believe that that's why they're not getting ahead in life.
Who does nothing but bad things and then wonders why his life sucks?
Because they're not putting out there, not putting the good vibes out there. You know, whether you believe in God, karma, whatever it is, just be a decent human being, and usually good things will happen to you. Usually.
I'm just trying to be a better person. My name is Earl.
Alright, so it's been running the whole time I went inside and washed up and used the restroom. No drips. So I think we're going to send it. On down the highway we go. Oh, and yes, I did double check the oil level. It was down just a tiny bit. I topped it off. Well, guys, almost 15 minutes to get out of the parking lot because everybody and their brother wanted to pull in front of us and then try to back up, and it's a terrible design parking lot here. Hi guys, if you haven't figured it out, we made it to Summit Racing. I got Goliath at the parking lot here. I'm trying to work on it. A little bit of going back and forth, but I think now I have everything that we need to finish this up. Now, on the way here, I did not see any significant increase in performance or in boost pressures or anything like that. I think I may still have a boost leak somewhere. Not real sure. It's hard to test without like a piece of equipment to test it with, and I've got that at home. I don't have it here. You know, I can't have Katie rev the motor while I check for leaks because you're not building any boost without any load, so it just doesn't work. But here's where we ran into a little bit of problem. So the flange piece that I found online is for a 3.5, and it actually fits the turbo perfectly, just like that, and the band clamp will hold it there. The problem is it doesn't fit the boot very well. It's just not girthy enough. Yeah, it's kind of like throwing a hot dog down the hallway. Not enough there. So I had to find another adapter. But because I felt like I had other boost leak issues, they did have some 4-inch straight silicone pipes that I'm going to replace all of the couplers between the turbo, the intercooler, and the intake manifold. Total of 4 couplers. Well, this one I guess I won't need anymore. I bought this one last night, but now this one will take its place. So hopefully this will all work. I'm going to try to do it before it gets too dark out. I just noticed something that makes no sense to me. All of the other T-bolts and V-clamps on this use a 7/16 nut to tighten them down. 11 millimeter works just fine as well. On all of these 4-inch boots, the turbo clocking, the center section clocking, even the 5-inch on the exhaust, all 7/16 or 11 millimeter. I got parts falling on the ground. But the small one that I got, ironically, it's only 3.5 inch. It has to have a 1/2 inch. Kind of weird that the small clamp needs a bigger bolt. All right, looks like that worked like a charm. And I got the new boot up there, which is the one I bought from the store last night. Now I'm going to look and see if that 90-degree one that I bought will work here. And if it does, I'm going to go ahead and replace both of these as well. Looks like I should be able to make that work. Yeah, I think so. All right, it's 8:30 and well, almost 8:30, not quite. And luckily they let me back in. What happened was the gentleman looked up the clamps for the 4-inch intake pipes, but apparently I actually need 4.5-inch clamps because I could not get them to go around the pipe as well as the boot. I could get them around the pipe, but not the pipe and the boot. So, you know, those things are about an 1/8 inch thick, so another 1/4 inch total overall diameter. But it was like 8:15, 8:18, something like that when I walked back up there, and they closed at 8. And I begged and pleaded with them to let me in because I'm like, listen, I'm stuck in your parking lot if I can't exchange these. The truth is, they didn't even exchange them, but they got me the right clamps. So now I get a bunch of clamps I don't need. But they're good T-bolt clamps, 4-inch. I'll find something to use them on, right? So really, all I should have to do is put these 4 clamps on. And this project should be done. Hi guys, now it is about 20 minutes until 9, and I think I got it all together, all fixed. One of the good things I noticed is as I was replacing the boots on the driver's side, there was no oil residue whatsoever in those boots. So what came out of the turbo that got onto the hot side never made it to the cold side. I mean, there may be some oil in the intercooler, but I don't think we have any kind of a huge problem. Now, I just got to figure out how to get out of this parking lot. I was going to make this turn, but there's a car right there, and I honestly don't know if I can make it or not. I may be better off just backing out. All the way down there. All right, guys, you know how sometimes I say, right when you think you got it covered, things get worse. One thing after another. We're leaving the parking lot. And this gentleman right here has actually been really, really cool. He's come over and talked to me a number of times while I was working on the rig and offered to help and everything. And he was even nice enough to move his car for me so that I could make the turn around there. Well, then when I got the rig turned around and came back, look what I did. I screwed up, guys. The back corner of the trailer that I could not see swung wide and took off his front bumper. I wish it would have happened to a jerk, but the guy was super nice.
Traffic now going
Well, and to top it off, you guys remember my friend Ron? He was with us earlier today, helped me with the turbo on, and then he left, hours and hours ago. Well, he is just north of Atlanta right now, towards Dalton, and apparently his truck is down again. So we were leaving to go help him, assuming that we were all fixed, and now we're gonna get delayed here. We're still gonna go help him no matter what when we're done, but we gotta deal with this. We've got a law enforcement officer coming out so they can document it, and then we'll be on our way. All right, guys, we're all finished up here. I feel really bad for messing up Cliff's car, but Cliff was a champ about it. He was a super nice guy. I just feel really bad about the whole thing. And anyway, we're out of here, and I gotta fix the guy's car now. All right, guys, we made it to Dalton, Georgia, where Ron's Duramax over here has had some issues. We're not sure exactly what's wrong with it yet. It's 12:30 in the morning. We're exhausted, so we're not even gonna look at it right now. We're parked, we're safe. We're just gonna get some sleep. In the morning, I'm gonna hook up the scan tool to it, see if there's any codes or anything we can read, do a diagnostics. There is a shop here that's willing to look at it, but we want to look and see if it's something simple first, maybe just a bad injector or whatever, before they go and try to tell him he needs a new engine. But he said it started running really rough, and then you got a bunch of blue smoke, which is the part that scares me, because blue smoke is typically oil, and that's not a good sign. So anyway, today ended up being a little bit more stressful than I wanted, and we still didn't make it home. We could have been home. We could have been home within the next hour if we didn't decide to come help Ron out. But he was there helping me today. We're friends. Even if he wasn't there helping me today, I'd be here helping him. So don't know exactly what the plan is, but we're gonna figure it out tomorrow. I feel terrible about taking off Cliff's bumper. Man, I kicked myself for it, and at this point I can't go back and change what I did. So we're just gonna move forward and do the right thing and get him taken care of and make it right. So anyway, guys, I'm beat. Oh, I did want to say, I still, with the turbo boots, didn't really see much of a difference. So hoping to see a little bit bigger of a difference, but I didn't. I don't want to say I'm disappointed. I guess maybe I was just expecting more. I'm glad that the truck's running good and the turbo's fixed. But anyway, Guys, thanks for watching. Till next time we see you, keep those engines running.